students, myself Nand and I am from iPhone team. My presentation topic is Geographic Information System. You all have heard about the GPS, but you don't have a knowledge about GIS. GIS is the one type of the system that will capture the information about the surface of the earth. Means in GPS we can find out the latitude, longitude of the earth surface, but we cannot find out what is located on that particular location. Then that information is get by the GIS. So GIS is useful to getting the information about the particular locations. If there is a river or if there is a mountain or land surface or greenery, etc., that information get by the GIS. So we can now we are I am representing you how that GIS information get and how it store in the application and how it works, and we can find out where is the earth, on which location there is a earth, mountain or place or other things. So now we are start. So I have included a couple of topics. What is geographic information? What is geographic information system? Why GIS means why we use the GIS? Purpose of the GIS? History of GIS development? Comparison between GIS and GPS? Components of GIS? GIS data model? It is like how the GIS works. Then how data are collected? Means from where we can collect the GIS data. Devices used in GIS. There are many types of devices. And area of the GIS means where the GIS is used. Then GIS software. Google Earth is one application for the GIS. Open Geo Architecture, that the Google Earth works on it, working with the Google Earth. Then advantage, disadvantage of GIS. Then there are many applications in Android and iPhone that I have included in it. Then video and conclusion, GIS today. First, what is geographic information system? Geographic information is the information about the place on the earth, where we can find out which is located on that location. There are two types of the system, means analog and digital. Analog represent the maps and digital represent the numeric data. Means if I have a map, then I cannot find out that in which location that is placed. So the data is used for that. What is GIS? GIS is a combination of the map plus database. So in past there is a map. We have a map on the paper, but we cannot find out that if the surface of the earth is changed, then it is static. So it is converted into a digital format. So that is the dynamic. Why the GIS? So from the GIS we find out that in our planet that Asia contains the highest number of the peaks, that are 10. Also there is India and China that has a large number of the people. So these type of the information find out from the GIS. Then GIS also has to find out that there is a when the rainy season comes, GIS helps the community to recover from the flood, tsunami, earthquake. Then cities are increasing, so the transportation fuel, etc. information get from the GIS. GIS helps to see the layer about the wonderful one. Here we can see the India, China, then flood. Means when the natural calamities are occurred, then the earth surface is changed. So that are the information are stored into our database. Then we can fetch the data and find out what is the change in the surface. Purpose of the GIS. So when we collect the data and store data and manipulate it, display data in the form of the maps, 3D models and tables. Then here we see that satellite, aerial photographs and digital maps are converted and stored into the digital format. And when the user fires the query, the application gets the data from the database and we can see on the map. Then we can find out what is the exact position and in which position the specific information is get. History of the GIS. In 1832, then the French geographer has manually go through the Paris and find out the area that has affected by the cholera and make one map that is displaying it. But in 2007, Roger Tomlinson is called as the father of the GIS. He has created the digital map. So it is a dynamic. Nowadays the GIS is growth increasingly. So GIS and GPS. So now we have a distinguished that the GPS only show the latitude longitude, but GIS show the what is the in which latitude longitude the specific Earth surface has contained the which type of the surface, means like a river or land or mountain or etc. So here the GIS field device, and that is the GPS device. This is used for the getting the data, and GPS device show in which location that information is stored. Then components of the GIS. So these are the components that are used for the getting the data. First of all, the people. Sometimes we see that in bridge we show the some people has one type of the device and find out the angle of the bridge. Then land survey and people population survey. So people are used for getting the data from different location. That data are stored in the one type of the software. Then one application is created, and then when the user fire the query and they get that information. So how that particular GIS information is stored and how it can be extracted from the database. So we see that GIS is a combination of the map and database. So map is based on the vector, raster and team. But vector has three points, line and polygons. Raster is in format of the cell. Team is represented as a triangle, and we see the we all know what is the database table, row and column. I have one application. Here we can see that this is the map. Then this application contains that we can find out the distance by. Then this is the point, and we connect this point to the other point. Then it creates a line, and we can see what is the distance. So this is the GIS application. Then we can create the another point and then merge it. So it is called as a polygon. So we can find out the area of this particular geographic surface. This is the ArcGIS application. You can download from the Google store. Its name is ArcGIS. Then this is the map. So we all now know what is the map. Map displays the location of the places on, and it's a blueprint of the Earth surface. Then this is so called as see that many countries, and these show the map with the district boundaries, roads and railways. Then points. So we see in the application that we touch on any particular location, we get the point. And how it's stored? It has X and Y coordinates, and it is storing it. So we can find out and store the data like in a river we touch, then it will find out how much deep the water, what is the volume of the water. So that are stored into the particular database. Then when the touch on the points, then we can find out that how much water in that point. Then that is here also we see the polygon. So it displays our area. Raster. So raster is represented as the cell. Means our Earth surface has many layers. Like first there is only land. Then if there is any buildings, then it is on the different layer. So that layer are stored and that information are stored on the database. So when user file the query, according to that layers information, we can find out the which is on the surface. Team and triangle, it is used for the 3D area. Means triangle representative of the 3D nodes. The adjacent nodes means if any we can connect one surface to the other surface. Means we have a river and we have then land. Then we can connect that, and that node connection are stored into the database. So we can find out the after the river what is the next. So it is find by the adjacent nodes. So this is the technique by we can store the data about the GIS into the application. What is database? So in real world we have only specific information like integer variable. But in geographic system, we have a special type of database. So it is called a spatial database. Spatial database stores the information of the point, line, polygon, etc. So it is called as a spatial database. So there is a different type. So spatial database, and it follows the OpenGeo consortium. This is one standard that is used for the storing the GIS information, and it follows the many types of rules. and they are the compatible database like MySQL, CartoDB, IBM DB2, CouchDB, MongoDB, Space database, Oracle, Spatial, Microsoft SQL Server. These are the database that are compatible for storing the information of the geographic information, etc. Means now how we can collect the data from of the GIS. So there are the different techniques like field sampling. We many times see that many employees or co-workers go to some location and find out the how much water or what is the earth surface by the different devices. So it is called as a field sampling. Aerial photographs, we many times see that a rocket is going into the sky. So it capture the earth surface photographs and store that photographs into the database. Then population census, we all know. Admin records, that are the database records. GPS, that store the latitude, longitude, and the land survey. So these are the many techniques for getting the GIS information. They are stored into the system, and the new GIS information is created. And these are the devices like analog cameras, digital cameras, voice recorders, satellite remote sensing, telemetry devices. These are the data collection devices that are used for the getting the data. Then input devices like a digitizer or scanner. Means we have a simple map. We can convert into digital, and that digital map are stored into our device. So these are the data input devices and stored into the computer. Then monitor printer are the output devices for it. Areas of GIS. So GIS is used in many areas, means like business, education, transportation, mapping, government, defense and intelligence system. In business, we can find out in which type of the location, which type of the business is reside. Means we have to find out that in which place there is a rubber factory or etc. So we can find out by the GIS information system. Then education, transportation. If government want to create a transportation service from one location to another location, then they can find out and determine by the analyzing the GIS database and find out in which place we have to put the bridge and which place we have to create the land. That is used for the GIS. Then defense and intelligence system also use the GIS. These are the software: Spatial, Geo, Google Earth, ArcGIS, Google Maps. We all know the Google Maps, Google Earth also, and Geo. This is one type of the software that is used for the find out the information about the Earth surface of the Moon or Mars. So this is the very complex, but it is informatic. I have included the Google Earth. So here the architecture that is used for the Google Earth. Here we can see that first is the user interface, then application server, and the database. The database is like the big elephant. Means there is a large number of database. Its size is very big. So when the user fire the query, then how the data collect from that number of the information. So there is a Geo server. Geo server is in the form of means different country has a different server. So it will divide all the data. Geo web cache. It store the current recent data into the Geo web cache. So when the user finds a query, if anyone has previously get the data, that data are stored into the Geo web cache, and user can get from it. This is the WMS and KMS service on the PostGIS. So this language is used for getting the data. WMS means and KMS, knowledge management language. So Google Earth, Google Map, and ArcGIS use this type of the language. Then user fire the query that goes to the Geo server, and this fire to the database. Database has asset history and asset location and data fields. Means all the data are stored into the SQL JDBC format, and when the user fires the query, they are fetched from the KMS or WMS language from the Geo server. Working with Google. So we all know that Google provides these type of facilities. Means we can put the pinpoint, we can find out the satellite view, we can find out any address or location from the Google Earth, street view, ocean view or daylight view. So these are the functionality provided by the Google Earth. This is the one type of the survey that is generated by the American National Snow and Ice Data Center. It says that because of the global warming, the snow is melting down and it is done 12% each decade. Means every 12 years the snow of the sea is melting down. So that is the large problem because of the global warming. Advantage of the GIS. So this is the advantage on the map. Means in map we cannot find out what is the information on that location. But by using the GIS we can find out that information. Map are static, but GIS is dynamic. Disadvantage of the GIS means it has a high cost. Means it uses the many complex database, many costly softwares. So it is very costly for normal people. And error propagation can be done because our service is changing rapidly. So there can be not updated database every time. So that is a problem for sometimes. These are the applications like Woods GIS, ArcGIS, Maps 3D are in the iPhone GIS application. So iPhone developer can get that application. And these are the application MapDroid, ArcGIS, Petroleum 2030 are for the Android developer. They can download from the Android Market Store. I have one video for them.
We live on a planet composed of diverse landforms, distinct climates, and unique people and cultures. Every continent, every country, every village holds its own history, its own mysteries. But at the heart of each of these diverse lands lies something in common that has shaped the past, affects the present, and will mold the future. That something is geography. Geography is more than places on a map. It's global connections and incredible creatures. It's people and cultures, economics and politics, and it's essential to understanding our interconnected world. And yet, maps are still one of the most essential tools that people use to understand geography, the environment, and the constant changes of our planet and its inhabitants. There are political maps showing territorial boundaries, maps of soil type, weather patterns, elevation data, and almost anything that comes to mind. Today, maps are no longer static. They are alive and changing and bringing geography to life. Technologies such as Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, has made this possible. Let's discover how GIS works by exploring the fascinating lands of Asia and the many layers of its cultures, features, and people. GIS reveals the power of geography by providing digital tools to visualize what exists, to gather and interpret tremendous amounts of information in order to model what has happened in the past and predict what may happen in the future. Asia is important in many ways. It is the largest continent, encompassing nearly 50 million kilometers of land area, nearly 30% of all the land on Earth. It is a land of extremes, boasting the highest point and the world's tallest land-based mountain, towering to 8,848 meters or 29,028 feet above sea level. Asia is home to 10 of the 10 highest peaks in the world. At the other extreme, the Dead Sea, at 409 meters or roughly 1,300 feet below sea level, is the lowest point in Asia and the world. With GIS, not only can we visualize these peaks and valleys, but we can quickly show additional information on the fly and in 3D. Explorers can study the slope of the land, the trails of Mount Everest, and even study weather patterns to plan potential expeditions. Why do climbers favor the Southeast Ridge Trek starting in the south in Nepal, while others choose the Northeast Ridge route beginning in Tibet? GIS can reveal various political and cultural factors, physical and environmental conditions, as well as weather phenomena, to help paint a picture that can answer these kinds of questions. Asia is recognized not only for its large mountain peaks, but also for its large and rapidly growing population. 9 of the top 20 most populated countries are located in Asia, as illustrated by these hotspots. Nearly 3.9 billion of the Earth's 6.6 billion people live in Asia. Using this 3D view of population density, we can see how the population is most concentrated in cities and urban settings. Why do some areas contain extreme population density? A closer look at Mumbai and Kolkata in India will help us understand. This area is home to hundreds of millions of people, and between them is the Ganges River Valley. This population density map shows high population numbers in red and areas with fewer people in gray. History and GIS can show us how and why both Mumbai and Kolkata became large cities. Their close proximity to rivers and the coast allowed them to become strong seaports. They became large cities that could support heavy trade, create transportation routes inland, and provide jobs for its inhabitants. Crops tend to grow well in fertile valleys where rivers run, and the Ganges is a huge river in a warm climate. This creates the ideal soil conditions allowing agriculture to thrive, which in turn leads to population growth. And a third factor called the monsoon brings rain to India from June to October. The rainy season is very important to the millions of people who live in southern and eastern Asia. The monsoons are crucial in sustaining the agriculture and the people of India. And in other parts of Asia, too much water proved to be devastating. In 2004, Asia was affected by the Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. Using GIS to model the path of a tsunami wave can help communities create evacuation and emergency plans and ultimately save lives. GIS has been an invaluable tool that can be used to assess damages and help communities in their recovery and rebuilding efforts, whether from a tsunami, hurricane, or fire. Whether it's too much or too little, water is an essential element for our survival. The Yangtze River in China is the longest in Asia and the third longest in the world, providing water to rice-growing regions in the south of China. Here, too, managing fresh water has become a crucial issue. China has built the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River for flood control and hydroelectricity. It is one of the largest hydroelectric power stations in the world. The dam will flood the river valley behind it, displacing over 1 million people. A GIS analytic model of future water levels shows us what the lake behind the dam will look like. Scientists have predicted the loss of many valuable archaeological and cultural sites, as well as effects on the environment. Again, GIS can be used to model the environmental impact and help scientists to find solutions to minimize man's impact. For China, the benefit of harnessing the river's power and eliminating the devastating seasonal flooding along the Yangtze River outweighs the historical and ecological loss. The industrial cities along the river will increase in size as people migrate from the countryside to the cities. Asian cities are among the largest in the world and will become even bigger in years to come. By 2030, experts predict that 2/3 of the people in Asia will live in megacities, cities with more than 10 million people. What problems will arise as cities vie for clean water, clean air, and other resources? Housing, employment, land use planning, transportation, and public health are just a few issues. For instance, in 2007, the avian flu shook the medical community and health organizations around the world. The avian flu is transmitted from bird to human and causes severe illness in humans who are infected. Since the speed and distance of modern travel is so great, GIS analysis can be used to track known cases to help scientists set up quarantine sites around the world. Though not escalating to the level of a pandemic, the deadly implications drew attention that the avian flu was not a problem for Asia alone, but for the world. We are not alone. We share the same problems and discoveries with our neighbors down the block and on the other side of the world. We are connected by geography, and we must see the interconnection in order to understand the relationships and patterns and the effects of our decisions. GIS helps us see the layers of our wonderful world. Learn more about geography and GIS. Get involved. Stay connected, because geography is fun.
Which country has the maximum population, then in our nowadays the traffic problem is very much more complex traffic is done. So government want to create the bridge or railways also. So these are done by analyzing the information of the GIS. So they have more knowledge about the GIS surface, and it will help the people to find out the our Earth's surface location and its information, and help to create the another way in which people can easily go through the one place to the other place. And also it help in the natural calamities when done, means in last previous month that there is a flood into the Uttarakhand. So in that government get the data from the GIS and find out the how many calamities occurs in that location. So it will help in this situation also. And I have also, so conclusion is that they provide the spatial information, and that spatial information are easily integrated by the GIS system. We can create the new maps that stored into the database. Then we allow to customize of the map. If there is changes into the surface, then we can change the map type. Then it provides a tool for accurate output and decision making. High quality output is for the OGC standard. So this type of the information get by the GIS. And there is a 20 November 2030. Every year GIS Day is celebrated in our planet. So these are the locations where this event will be done on the 20th November 2030. I am video for it.